Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Jacob and Kelvin both sent me this story from WLBT down south out of Mississippi. Appeals court rules state must return $225,000 seized from California man during Brandon traffic stop. So this is a civil asset forfeiture case where a man went to court to try to get his money back, and he had to go to the appeals court to get it because he lost at the trial court. California man who had hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash seized from Brandon authorities could soon get his money back. On Tuesday, the Mississippi Court of Appeals reversed the lower court's decision to take the money from the man under the state's forfeiture laws, saying the state did not sufficiently prove the money was subject to being taken. So here the court's saying that in this case, they're saying in Mississippi, that the state does have to prove the money was up to no good. Okay, and I've said before that you often have to go to court to prove your money's innocent. Here the court's saying, well, the state's got to prove that it's guilty. So while we recognize that $225,000 is a large amount of money and gives rise to understandable suspicions, the suspicions without more are not enough to hold that the money was forfeitable, the court wrote. We cannot say the evidence proved it was more likely than not that the man possessed the currency with the intent to use it in connection with an illegal narcotics trafficking scheme. The state failed to meet its burden of proof, and the circuit court erred in forfeiting the funds to the Brandon Police Department. The ruling now comes more than 4 years after the man was pulled over by the Brandon Police Department while traveling on I-20 in a commercial truck and trailer. So the guy was pulled over 4 years ago, had his money taken, and he has just now been told by a court, okay, you can have your money back. Question is, are they going to appeal this to the state Supreme Court? Might tie it up longer. The man was 70 at the time. He said he needed the money to make repairs to his truck. The funds were located in a duffel bag and separated in envelopes, each envelope containing $5,000. Now, some people are going to say, but Steve, that's odd. Okay, there's a difference between things being suspicious, being odd, and being illegal. Okay? No weapons, no drugs, no paraphernalia were found during the stop. The money was tested for drug residue, and here's the question. They didn't just test it the normal way. They did something strange. According to court records, they put the money in a box, and then they had the dog sniff the box to see how the dog would react. Rather than simply having the dog sniff the envelopes, I'm not quite sure why they would do that. During proceedings in the county circuit court, a deputy testified that the dog reacted to the box, but did not react as if he found drugs. See, it's so sad. The dog can't tell you what it's reacting to. If only they could talk. Officers also examined the man's cell phone, revealing that he had deleted all of the calls and messages from days before the traffic stop. And now here's the thing. You might say, but Steve, that's suspicious. Maybe he suspected he's in trouble with the police, and so he did that. But also, you understand that if the police wanted to, they can get a warrant and get all of the call logs from his phone company. The information is there. So the fact that he deleted this stuff might make it harder for them to get, but they can still get it. So don't pull this, oh, he deleted it all. We don't know what it was. It must have all been phone calls to a drug mule or something. Get a warrant. So they say that he did apparently have a number on that phone with ties to an investigation being conducted by the DEA. However, it was later revealed in court that the number tied to the investigation was for an insurance provider that serviced multiple trucking companies, including a trucking company related to this story. Oops. The state held a bench trial in 2022. During that trial, the police chief testified that this man fit the profile of a drug courier and pointed to several cues, such as his use of paper rather than electronic logs, as well as excessive downtime in known destination areas. I will admit, I do not know how many drivers use paper logs versus electronic logs. However, the man is 70 years old. It might be that he likes paper better. Personally, I have situations in my life where I use paper over electronic all the time. On my desk, I have a calendar. It is a paper calendar. I write things on my calendar. So if you're ever talking to me and say, Steve, what are you doing next Thursday? I say, I have to look at my calendar. I literally have to look at a piece of paper on my desk. Now you might say, but Steve, that's so old-fashioned of you. I bet you write checks too. And you probably wind up your TV set before it fires up the old black and white tube. Well, you know something? I used to use a digital calendar. And I had one on a computer that crashed. And I had to reconstruct it later. And so it turns out paper don't crash. I like paper. So I know that my paper doesn't crash. I like paper. The police chief also said that paper logs can be easily manipulated compared to electronic ones. He also pointed out that the truck had New York State tax stickers on the front bumper and that the separate envelopes made it easier to make quick cash exchanges. For all we know, the guy's one of those people who just keeps everything in perfect order. Who knows? The police chief also said that I-20 westbound between California and Georgia is a major drug trafficking corridor. Shut it down then. I'm joking. My point is, if this highway is such a major drug trafficking corridor, why don't you catch some people on it who've got drugs? Well, this guy's got money, though. Oh, I'm sorry, it's also a money corridor? Circuit Court accepted the state's finding of facts and allowed the money to be forfeited. The appellate, though, ruled the man was able to provide plausible explanations to rebut these factors, including the fact the man was not traveling to Atlanta, but was delivering car parts to West Point, Georgia. He had car parts with him. Officer represented that the man was in the Atlanta area, which he characterized as a major narcotics distribution hub. However, he was actually quite a distance from Atlanta. As the dissent points out, West Point is 80 miles from Atlanta. This comparison would be equivalent of saying Macomb, Mississippi is in the Jackson area. So that's a local thing, because I don't know where Macomb, Mississippi is. I'm betting it's 80 miles from Jackson. The appeals court judges also found the items in the truck were car parts, and the items there matched the bill of lading. As for the paper logbooks, the man said he was using paper because the GPS feature in the electronic logbook was not working. There's nothing criminal about using a paper logbook. The Brandon officer initiating the stop even testified, in the commercial motor vehicle world, you see a lot of drivers hiding time because they have a timeline. They can only drive 11 hours a day. It's not something that jumped out at me all of a sudden saying, hey, this is a smuggler. There's a driver out there that is trying to conceal time. It's not anything criminal. Court also ruled that there's nothing criminal about the man saving his money in his truck rather than putting it in the bank. Records indicate the man did have a bank account at the time of the stop, but did not use it so he could have the funds readily available to make repairs. There were no weapons, no drugs, no paraphernalia, or any other items associated with drug trafficking found in the truck after 2 searches. This court has already established that mere speculation is not sufficient to establish a connection between money and illegal drug trafficking. So again, mere speculation is not sufficient to establish a connection between money and illegal drug trafficking. Given all the evidence taken together, a rational trier of fact could not have found, by a preponderance of evidence, that the man possessed the money with the intent for use in connection with an illegal narcotics trafficking scheme. Accordingly, we find reversal is proper. And, here's the thing. You find somebody lots of money and you go, oh, they're up to no good. Okay, let's follow that train of thought for a moment. Are they going to buy stolen cars? Are they going to buy bootleg t-shirts? Are they going to buy moonshine? I mean, you don't know. You can buy all kinds of stuff with money. Oh, it's obviously illegal narcotics. Obviously. Obviously? Why? As I pointed out earlier, it's often the case that when they take your money, they make you sue them and prove that your money was innocent. And here they're saying, well, actually the way it works in Mississippi is the state has to prove by preponderance, which means more likely than not. So if you put both sides of the equation on a scale, who would win? Doesn't matter by how much, who would win? So if you've got enough evidence to push it over to indicate that, yeah, more likely than not, the guy was going to buy drugs. But how do you get that out of the fact that he's got money in his truck? He's on this road. and he's using paper logs. Huh? Where do you get drugs out of that? Because remember, there's criminals out there doing all kinds of stuff. Like I said, buying stolen cars. That's an example. I mean, how do we know he's not going to do that? And so the court, in essence, is saying, read between the lines, that it would take more. And if they had more, they might have won. But the weird part is, apparently, the dog did not indicate the presence of drugs on any of the envelopes or any of the cash. And then they had to put the envelopes with the cash inside boxes and have the dog check the box, which that to me seems real weird. Because how do we know the box is clean? That's just strange. But the good news is the man's getting his money back. The bad news is he had to go through trial and take it up on appeal. And there's going to be a fortune in attorney fees there because this is full-blown. And just so you know, don't blame the attorneys for this. This was done by the police department and the municipality that runs it on purpose. Because they know that if they force people to fight these, many people are going to go, it's not worth the trouble. Now, luckily, the guy had $225,000 at stake here, which is enough to incentivize him to pursue it. And it probably incentivized a lawyer to help him do this. But they know, referring to the municipality and the police department, that if they force everyone to fight these cases, a lot of people will just walk away from it, whether or not they had any ill intent with their money. So the sad part is that this happened a long time ago. This happened in 2020. So ballpark it as 4 years ago. And now we got a court saying, yeah, he gets his money back. And assuming they don't appeal that, he might get his money back 4 years. 4 years after they took it from him. So appeals court rules the state must return $225,000 seized from California man during a traffic stop in Brandon, Mississippi. WLBT wrote that. Jacob and Calvin both sent it. Thanks a lot. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Give a man a fish and you feed him for the day. Teach him how to use the internet and he won't bother you for weeks.